What if everything people once believed about the Indiana Fever, how nobody wanted to play there, how the team supposedly lacked star power, suddenly crumbled in the face of a single game-changing arrival? For months, rumors swirled that big-name players avoided the franchise as if it were a dead end. Critics said Indiana couldn't draw enough talent, that even a generational player like Caitlyn Clark will be stuck in a losing environment. But then Sophie Cunningham stepped off a plane, landed in Indianapolis, and lit the city on fire with her uncontainable excitement. The same folks who ridiculed the Fever for being a so-called undesirable destination found themselves backpedaling. After all, if the rumor was true, why did one of the WNBA's toughest competitors look so genuinely thrilled to don that Fever jersey? The moment Sophie flashed her trademark grin and declared, "I'm finally here and I'm ready to win," it became crystal clear the entire narrative was about to flip upside down. Before Sophie Cunningham even touched down, the franchise endured a loud public critique from WNBA legend Sheryl Swoopes. She insisted nobody wanted to play for Indiana. Skeptics piled on, claiming that all the big free agents and trade targets would rather go anywhere else. Each time the Fever tried to improve, the negativity roared back, drowning out optimism with cynicism. But behind the scenes, the organization worked tirelessly to reshape its culture. They pieced together a roster that mixed bright young stars like Caitlyn Clark and Aaliyah Boston with established game-changers such as Kelsey Mitchell. Still, every time a big name got rumored to land in Indiana, a wave of doubt rolled in. That swirling cloud of nobody wants to be here followed the Fever right into the offseason. Yet ironically, as critics hammered away at these concerns, Sophie was busy relaxing poolside in Phoenix, only to jump at the news that she'd been traded to Indiana. Instead of dread or hesitation, she met the announcement with a level of enthusiasm that blew every skeptic's argument out of the water. Picture that moment. Sophie Cunningham, known for her fierce presence on the court, lounging under the Arizona sun when her agent contacts her. Instead of hearing gloom and doom about leaving a well-known Phoenix squad, she had a single thought. Heck yeah, I'm going to Indiana to win a championship. Right away, the entire storyline changed. A player of Sophie's caliber, someone who battled alongside legends in Phoenix, didn't just accept the trade, she embraced it with open arms. If you believe the doubts about the Fever, then Sophie's reaction felt downright shocking. Why was she so eager to move to a supposed undesirable franchise? The answer is simple. She recognized the evolving identity of Indiana. As she put it, the Fever's roster construction, plus the budding star power of Caitlyn Clark, offers exactly the style of basketball Sophie thrives in. Surrounded by shooters, slashers, and a selfless system, she saw immediate potential in a place others had foolishly written off. Part of Sophie's excitement goes beyond basketball strategy. For a Missouri native, moving to Indiana is more like coming home than venturing into uncharted territory. The Midwest is where she grew up, where her family lives, and where her friends can pack the stands on a regular basis. Back in Phoenix, her support system had to rely on plane tickets and time zone juggling to watch her. Now, with a short drive, dozens of relatives and friends can rally behind her in person. The bond to her roots ignited a wave of energy that only multiplied her enthusiasm. According to Sophie, the second her phone blew up with messages about Indiana, her relatives and old friends already began asking about season tickets, travel plans, and local hangouts. When family is everything, the idea of playing in front of them injects an extra layer of motivation. And it doesn't hurt that the fans in Indiana, known for their love of basketball, were more than ready to welcome her like a hometown hero. Yet the biggest storyline revolves around one crucial question. How does Sophie Cunningham's arrival impact Caitlyn Clark, the rising superstar who was targeted physically all last season? Time and again, we saw opponents dish out cheap fouls and borderline malicious hits on Clark, clearly aiming to disrupt her mojo. Without a true enforcer by her side, Caitlyn ended up absorbing more than her fair share of punishment. But Sophie Cunningham has built a reputation in the WNBA for never backing down. She's feisty, sassy, and always ready to defend her squad. If Clark is the unstoppable engine of Indiana's offense, Sophie is the bodyguard who ensures no one gets to rough up that engine without consequences. She spelled it out plainly. I'm fierce, I'm sassy, I stick up for my teammates, and that's okay. It was music to Clark's ears. With Sophie on the court, defenders no longer have the luxury of trying to bully Caitlyn into frustration. One hard screen, one cheap shot, and you can guarantee Sophie will be in the mix, making sure justice is served. But being an enforcer isn't just about swinging elbows or staring down rivals. It's about setting the tone physically, so the entire team can operate with confidence. Last season, the Fever often wilted under intense physical pressure. Whenever opponents saw them struggle, they ramped up the aggression. Now, with Sophie in the lineup, that dynamic shifts. Her willingness to meet force with force changes how opposing teams approach the game. Instead of brazenly hacking at Caitlyn or knocking Aaliyah Boston off the block, they have to think twice. Will it lead to more technical fouls or occasional scuffles? Maybe. But the psychological edge is invaluable. Suddenly, the Fever aren't the shy young squad that can be bullied into submission. They've got a proven competitor who thrives in contact situations, finishing through tough defense and dishing it right back. This enforcer role, however, sometimes overshadows Sophie's equally significant skill, her lethal three-point shot. Over her years in Phoenix, she established herself as one of the league's most reliable perimeter shooters, consistently hovering around 38 to 40% from distance. For a team built around the dynamic playmaking of Caitlyn Clark, that outside marksmanship might be the perfect finishing touch. Picture Clark tearing through defenders, drawing extra coverage, and then dishing out a no-look pass to Sophie in the corner. That's a catch-and-shoot scenario practically designed for Cunningham's sweet spot. If defenses choose to stay glued to Sophie, that just leaves Caitlyn free to exploit the lane. If they pinch on Clark, Sophie can bury an open three, like it's a layup drill. The synergy extends even further when you factor in Kelsey Mitchell, another fearsome shooter who's proven she can torch teams from beyond the arc. Suddenly, opposing defenses can't key in on a single star. They can't just load up bodies on Caitlyn Clark or double-team Aaliyah Boston in the paint without leaving someone wide open from long range. The result is an offense with terrifying versatility. Sophie spaces the floor, Clark orchestrates, Boston punishes mismatches inside, and Mitchell provides yet another perimeter threat. Even Lexi Hull brings her own brand of sharpshooting. That's 4 or 5 reliable scorers who can all catch fire on any given possession. In the WNBA, where rosters are more compact and each game can be decided by a handful of crucial plays, that level of spacing is often the deciding factor. A year ago, the Fever struggled in those tight moments. Now they're poised to thrive. Another layer to the story involves Sophie's underrated defensive adaptability. At 6'1", she can switch across multiple positions, stepping out to guard quick perimeter players or banging inside against bigger forwards. Indiana's coaching staff, led by Stephanie White, loves an aggressive, switching defense that keeps opponents guessing. Before joining the Fever, Sophie often switched onto star guards, taking pride in making life miserable for the league's best ball handlers. She also occasionally slid into a small ball power forward role, giving Phoenix added flexibility. Now, that same versatility becomes a weapon for Indiana. If they need a scrappy stopper to harass a star point guard, Sophie's game. If they want to run a lineup that emphasizes speed and shooting, she can bump up to the 4 spot without missing a beat. Stephanie White's presence is another piece of the puzzle. She and Sophie go way back, having crossed paths in college when White coached against Cunningham. Over the years, they kept up a friendly banter about joining forces, jokingly asking, "When are you going to coach me?" That little question hung in the air for season after season until now. The timing couldn't be more perfect. Sophie is entering her prime years at age 28, brimming with confidence and hungry to accomplish something big. Meanwhile, Stephanie White has taken the reins in Indiana, determined to prove the franchise can rise to the top again. That mutual respect lays a foundation of trust, guaranteeing that Sophie's combative style and the coach's vision for a selfless, fast-paced offense will mesh seamlessly. The cultural shift in Indiana extends far beyond Sophie Cunningham's arrival. DeWanna Bonner, Natasha Howard, and Sydney Colson have all joined the cause. Each one carries a unique championship pedigree or veteran savvy, forging an atmosphere where winning is expected, not just dreamed about. Bonner, for instance, has more postseason experience than almost anyone else in the league. Her track record speaks volumes. Howard, owning multiple championship rings, adds another layer of unstoppable two-way brilliance. Colson's leadership and energy in the locker room can't be overstated. Combined, these veterans create a support system for young standouts like Clark, Boston, and Hall. If there was ever a worry about the Fever's lack of experience, that concern crumbles when you glance at the new lineup. Think of it this way. Last season, Caitlyn Clark often found herself dragged into overly physical matchups where she had to do everything: score, pass, protect herself from cheap fouls, and serve as the emotional leader on the floor. Now, with Cunningham, Bonner, Howard, and others stepping in to shoulder that burden, Clark can focus on her specialty, orchestrating the offense, dropping dimes, and draining shots from half-court if she feels like it. Meanwhile, an established trio of veterans can handle the intangible tasks of setting the physical tone, mentoring rookies, and keeping the team energized. This distribution of responsibility doesn't just help Clark. It helps the Fever in critical late-game moments, where experience and cool heads often decide the outcome. It's no wonder fans are flooding social media with expressions of disbelief and excitement. One post read, "Sophie Cunningham makes the entire state of Indiana feel bigger and better the moment she arrives." Another, "This is the best combination of youth and experience we've seen in decades." While hyperbole tends to run wild on social platforms, there's genuine substance behind these reactions. Sophie's social media presence alone, Including her videos exploring Gainbridge Fieldhouse with an ear-to-ear grin shows how quickly she's embraced the fever. She's not acting like a player who was dragged to a miserable situation. She's celebrating the move as though she just hit the jackpot. In doing so, she's offered a living, breathing counterpoint to everything Sheryl Swoopes declared. If you follow the Fever's fortunes over the last few seasons, you know the biggest complaint was that they seemed perpetually stuck in rebuilding mode, one star short of competing, one missing piece away from a cohesive identity. Now, that missing piece might well be Sophie Cunningham. Of course, she's not a miracle worker who instantly guarantees a championship, but her skill set, energy, and personality fill the gaps that were most evident last season. She doesn't have to carry the entire team on her shoulders. Instead, she's the glue that holds a more complete roster together. Imagine the trickle-down effect of having a physically tough wing who can also shoot lights out. Suddenly, role players see the floor open up, while budding superstars like Clark and Boston gain the breathing room to dominate without being smothered by triple teams. Championship talk can sound premature, especially when a franchise has endured several losing seasons. But Sophie didn't mince words. The moment she heard about the trade, she thought, "We're about to go win a championship. Call it bold, call it daring, but confidence of that magnitude can be contagious." And it's not empty bragging. Sophie has 15 playoff games under her belt, including a trip to the WNBA Finals in 2021. She knows firsthand how the pressure intensifies in the postseason. She knows what it's like to battle in hostile arenas, to close out tight games, and to keep composure when a single mistake can swing a series. That playoff expertise, sprinkled among the other veterans now suiting up for Indiana, is exactly what the Fever lacked before. From the front office to the coaching staff, everyone in Indiana appears unified around one goal: build a contender that can make a deep run and maybe, just maybe, bring the trophy back to a city that's hungry for a new legacy of winning. Gone are the days of half-hearted press conferences and lukewarm commitments. Sophie Cunningham's dynamic personality is the perfect embodiment of this new Fever spirit, tenacious, joyful, and laser-focused on success. When you see her beam at her freshly printed jersey like a rookie all over again, it's impossible to ignore the sense of rebirth. Doubters can point to the tough competition in the WNBA, but they can't deny that Indiana has assembled a roster with genuine depth and proven track records. In the end, this transformation is about more than just one player or one trade. It's about overturning a stale narrative. No longer can anyone credibly argue that nobody wants to play for the Indiana Fever. Sophie Cunningham showed up, grinning from ear to ear, announcing her championship aspirations. DeWanna Bonner and Natasha Howard signed on, bringing leadership and rings that command respect. Caitlyn Clark and Aaliyah Boston stand ready to carve out legendary careers, now with the muscle and mentorship to unlock their fullest potential. It's a convergence of talent, attitude, and vision that fans have dreamed about for years. So if you still believe Indiana is a wasteland where stars refuse to go, the evidence says otherwise. A new chapter has begun, one that promises physical battles, lights-out shooting, fierce loyalty, and unstoppable momentum. The Fever are no longer a footnote. They're becoming a headline act, fueled by Sophie Cunningham's swagger, ready to shock everyone who dared to doubt them. And if you ask Sophie herself, that's only the beginning of the story.